How's it going, everybody? It's MrScaryMuffin once again, and we're back with Thoughts, Talks, and TF2. And seeing how TF2, Team Fortress 2, is in the title, I figured I should probably talk about the game every now and then instead of talking about random topics. I figured maybe just do 1 week TF2 stuff, 1 week of non-TF2 stuff. Probably fit the bill. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, what kind of stuff you prefer me to talk about. Anyways, I thought a really good topic this week would be to talk about Team Fortress 2 as an esport, as a spectator esport, to be precise. And I have pretty strong opinions regarding what is a good spectator sport, what's a good spectator esport kind of thing. And I think I've talked about this in the past, but let's talk about physical sports first, things like basketball and football and baseball and kind of things like that. Just so you guys have a better understanding of where I'm coming from, I'm going to use these sports that people probably know more about. It may be a Canadian thing, but I feel that the best spectator sport is hockey. And the reason for that is that hockey has a lot of action, but not too much going on at the same time. It has a relatively large rink, but not too large. Has a decent number of people moving in and out, a lot of players going through the ring, and a lot of scoring going on too. Like a decent amount of scoring, not way too much and not too little kind of thing. If we look at something, for example, like basketball, right? Basketball, similar to hockey, has 5-on-5 going on at the same time. My issue with basketball is that the court is really small, and when people are close to each other, they may or may not be interacting with each other. They could potentially interact with each other, but you're going to see people running through a swarm of people and then coming out and doing a layup or something like that. Whereas in hockey, if a person is up close and personal with somebody else, you know that they're interacting. They're either trying to get the puck from them, they're checking them, or whatever. If the person's not doing that, he will be far enough away so that you can see that he's not interacting with them. It's very clear what's going on between the players, and you can have a good understanding of what people are doing, kind of thing. You can have a better idea of the positioning and stuff like that. Basketball is a little bit harder to see sometimes, just because the close proximity of the players and the small court makes it so that they have to be close to each other. Another thing I didn't really like about basketball is that there are way too many baskets. I mean, we're talking about people scoring, not people, but the teams scoring like 50 times in a game. It makes each basket not seem that special, to me anyways. I know that there is this kind of like war attrition, gradual rise kind of thing. You want to gaining points, denying points. Like each individual one will make a difference in the end, but at the moment, to a spectator, it's really hard to appreciate the things. I mean, three-pointers, woo, yeah, big, huge things, but sometimes they miss, and you're like, oh, okay, well, they missed. Maybe they should have tried it. To me, it's a weird dichotomy, because they're trying to score the points, and there's no real goalie, right, kind of thing. So the points are all but guaranteed as long as they can get close enough and do the shot, kind of thing, where, you know, really good scorers make a huge difference, because especially if they can reliably sink a three-pointer kind of stuff like that. But as a spectator thing, you don't get that really big celebration, right? We're looking at something like, I don't know, soccer, for example, where they get a goal, and because goals are so rare, it's so huge, this hype, everybody's super excited. Basketball is kind of like, yay, alright, defense, oh, they denied them, or whatever, and then we go back and try to score, right? There's not that many breaks, there's not many opportunities for celebration. So it makes the baskets feel not as special. Whereas in soccer, I just mentioned it now, right? The goals are few and far between. I mean, I've seen way too many games, especially at the world level, where it's just like 0-0, 1-0, and I want to see those goals, because those are the moments you live for, right? Not to mention, soccer has the opposite problem of basketball, where there's way too many people and way too much space, right? The action's all focused in like one area at a time, as people moving together, trying to move that ball, and it just moves back and forth, and it doesn't seem like too much is happening. They're gaining ground, that's kind of cool. But overall, to me, it's not as exciting. You get like these brief spurts of excitement, and that's about it. And then you get the goals, and it was a huge moment of excitement. But you watch like a 2-hour game for like maybe a couple minutes of excitement, and to me it's not much of a payoff for a spectator. And then you have something like football, where football is another really complicated game, and it's really hard to understand what's going on. But thankfully, they've got these instant replays and a lot of breaks so that people can, the TV shows can show you what's going on, and commentators can show you what's going on with instant replays and little analysis of this and that. But that also brings a different problem with football, is that there's a lot of breaks, right? You get a little bit of a hype moment, and then they stop playing, and they gotta get set up again, and then they gotta huddle and everything, and then you get excited, they're gonna do something, and then they stop again, and then etc., right? And even worse off is in football, if your team is on offense, you want the crowd to be quiet so that they can hear the count, the snap count. It's very important, right? But that telling the crowd to shut up, it's kind of counterintuitive to getting the crowd excited, right? I don't know. To me, it's kind of weird. And like, a lot of reasons why I like hockey as a spectator sport. I actually also really like volleyball, and I think volleyball would be a really good spectator sport. I think the only problem that's stopping volleyball is, one, the court is really small, which means if you have a stadium arena hosting the game, you can't have people like in the upper bowl, because they won't be able to see anything without binoculars or something like that. And I think the other thing with volleyball is that not too many people play at a time in volleyball. You got 6 people on at a time, but unlike basketball, where they will be substituting people as people get freaking tired in the game, volleyball not so much. They might switch some people now and then, but you're not going to see as many substitutions, like significant substitutions anyways. You might have them substituting, like, here's a guy who's better at serving, and he'll just serve, and then we'll switch him right off again, that kind of stuff. You might have that, right? But I don't know, it's a little bit different. Baseball we don't have to talk about, because baseball's freaking boring. Just catch the highlights, seriously. Anyways, so let's talk esports, and specifically about TF2, right? TF2 is not a good spectator esport. It's not great for spectating, because there's way too much going on at the time, and there is no breaks, right? It's like the problem of football. So many things happening at the same time, but you don't get those instant replays. You don't get multiple cameras helping out. I mean, if you have high production standards, if you have high production value, people who are helping you out, like, we're talking about a team of like 3 cameramen, 1 producer, and then 2 commentators or something like that, then you'll be able to get people to make sure you catch all the picks, get the best angle for every single possible situation, have that instant replay for a significant moment, like, hey, here's the part that made a difference. While we have this little bit lull in the action, we'll show you, basically, here's the guy, they're pushing here, but then these guys came over here and they flanked them, and that was the big play, right? You don't have these moments that kind of show the spectator, here's what happened, like, let's see that again, and here's why it's important. You don't get that kind of stuff. You kind of rely on the spectators to know the game, and that causes a problem. It makes it so that it's hard for people to approach the game, right? And it's not a problem that can be easily solved in TF2. I think it might be something that may be taken into future consideration if we ever get a sequel, like a Team Fortress 3 or something like that, right? Where the commentators will have more control over which camera they're seeing, like fast commands. I know Pankster's talked about using the number keypad to just toggle between players really quickly, and then maybe using control and the number pad to toggle on the other team, kind of thing. Like, that would be really good in some way, so you can instantly jump to a person, and then maybe even have like some kind of split screen. I don't know. There's way too much action going on in Team Fortress 2, and it's not strictly a problem with FPS games per se, because recently I played a couple of games of Counter-Strike Global Offensive, CSGO, and I thought, hey, this game wouldn't be too bad as a spectator game, because a lot of the action is focused on 1 or 2, maybe 3 chokes, right? And you can watch people position themselves, and every kill makes a difference, right? So in that case, TF2 has that basketball problem where there's so many kills going left, right, and center, right? Only a few of them really make a difference. Killing the medic, killing the heavy or whatever, those are like the 3-pointers. Whereas, just the regular old kills, just, oh, he just got kills. Nothing too special about it. Things that happens all the time, right? But in Counter-Strike, when the person gets a kill, it makes a big difference because that guy's not going to be respawning until the next round, right? It's a deathmatch. So, like, CSGO is kind of like the hockey to TF2's basketball kind of thing in that regard. And, CSGO is kind of okay as a spectator sport. It still has a bit of problem of being, trying to catch everything at the same time because there are still 2 chokes happening at the same time. If you were to ask me what is esports hockey, period, I would say maybe something like Dota 2 or League of Legends or something like that. They have a lot of action, but not so much that it's hard to focus. I mean, you got 3 lanes to follow, right? And usually things are only happening at a couple of them because there's only 5 people on each side. It's a 5-on-5. Hey, so it's like just like hockey. It seems like to be a bit of a sweet spot right there. There's not too much action. Like, if you think about it, Starcraft is a really good spectator sport, and it is really huge in Korea for a good reason. It's because the spectators have perfect knowledge of what's going on, and the game goes at a nice, slow pace so that the commentators can give you analysis and explain what's going on and explain why things are important, what things are happening, and spectators, even if it's the first time they're watching the game, they can understand, they can learn, and they can appreciate what's going on because the commentators have all this time to talk about what's going on, right? And the same thing for Dota 2, same thing for League. The action is relatively slow paced, and unlike Starcraft, there's only 5 people on each side to really consider and to watch, right? You don't have to worry about all these different units and all these different things going on at the same time. And also the thing is, you don't have to watch the build order in the beginning. You don't have to watch them just get minerals at the start and go through the same startup we see every single time, most of the time anyways. Whereas in Dota, the players start interacting right away. And in StarCraft, players don't really interact with each other until they first scout each other, and even then they'll just scout and then maybe just stop, right? So we're not going to see any interaction for the first 5, 7, 8 minutes of the game until things start actually happening. We might see some early harassment, but that's about it. Other than RTS games, or at least, overhead view maps and FPS, we also have fighting games. And fighting games are, well, comparable to fighting sports, right? We get to watch boxing, we get to watch other things, and I think for the most part, fighting games is pretty exciting to watch, especially with commentary. Sometimes they go really crazy fast. I mean, you look at Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3, there's a lot of things going on at the same time. It takes a while for you to get a little bit of understanding of what's going on, especially when people are calling in assists left, right, and center. It gets pretty chaotic for the casual spectator. But if they threw in even just a splash of replays in there, which is really hard to do in esports, I think that's one of the big things missing in esports is instant replays for spectator mode. I would pretty much love it if it's possible to have some kind of way, shape, or form. And I think people making games these days, if they want it to be a competitive esport type game, they need to really consider how it's going to be presented to spectators. It's something that is really huge for them to think about, right? So, instant replays would be kind of nice. But for most parts, if you watch something like Street Fighter 4, and by the way, speaking of which, Smash Brothers Melee gonna be at EVO this year. Oh, so hyped for that. Oh, that's gonna be so exciting. Gonna love it. And fighting games in general seems to be fine for commentators just to explain what's going on, other than, Ultimate Marvel versus Capcom 3, where way too much is happening at the same time. But even then, it has the slow moments in the fight where it allows the commentators rather to explain what's going on. And yeah, usually, you know, sometimes players will do a little bit keep away and all that kind of stuff. And one thing about Ultimate versus Marvel 3 is that it has huge hype moments where people, you know, with the X Factor and stuff like that, it gets really exciting to watch. And that's one of the things that some of the games are missing in that regards. I mean, Counter-Strike, for example, the game itself looks kind of, you know, we got the gritty, bland kind of thing, and it's missing sometimes those really big hype moments. You get like a ton of kills, and those happen so fast that it's like over, because the headshots, boom, the guy's dead, boom, that guy's dead, right? You can have a guy going on a crazy streak, and sure, that's exciting, but again, it's the whole, I watched the game for half an hour and I got like literally 10 seconds worth of excitement out of it. It's not a good investment for the spectators. Yeah. Anyways, TF2 as a spectator esport, not so great. I mean, I know myself as a commentator doing this for the Duck Soup Highlander League, I constantly, you know, people are like, hey, you missed this pick, you missed that pick, hey, you missed this action going on. It's hard to keep track of everything going on at the same time, and also try to work the camera and trying to find the best angle and trying to find the place where, you know, we get as much information, provide as much information, because it's not only like here's what's going on in mid, but here's what's kind of being set up in behind the scenes. You know, here's a sniper peeking, right? There's so many little elements going on in a single game. It's exciting for the players for sure, but for the spectators, it takes a while for them to understand, you know, what's going on. You got some people here, you got some people there. There's the pacing with the Uber, but like, and there's a whole little meta game with the snipes and the picks and which roles are better and more important to kill first. I don't know. There's a lot of work to be going on, but that being said, the competitive scene for TF2 and the eSports spectators, all that kind of stuff, it has been building up recently. We've got Community Fortress and X Television. Those guys are doing tremendous work. UHC also doing its job in actually promoting the competitive so that people actually have something to watch. And I think that is pretty big. Another big thing going on for TF2 is the fact that it's a free-to-play game. People don't have to invest to get started. You see this game, you learn a little bit about how things go, and you go, hey, I want to try that out, right? It's kind of like, I just saw, my wife sent me this article about being a 90s child in Taiwan. And one of the things is like, reason why basketball is so popular was because of the manga Slam Dunk. The manga/anime Slam Dunk from Japan, and that was a big thing. It influenced a lot of people, got people like, hey, you know, I want to try basketball. And basketball, thankfully, it's a relatively cheap thing, right? Just like soccer, one of the reasons why soccer is picked up is because you just need a ball, right? Basketball, you just need a basketball and the hoops, right? Hockey is a little bit harder. You need to get a lot of gear. You need to have ice, unless you're playing street hockey, right? But then even then, you know, it's not the ice hockey. Once you go from the street to the ice, it's a whole different game. So TF2 has going for it is that it's a free-to-play game. People watch this, they see a little bit, and they go, hey, that's kind of cool. I wouldn't mind playing this role. And then they might go try out the game, and that'll get them into the game and get them watching it as well, so they can learn even more, right? It's kind of the thing with football, where in football, no matter what type of body you are, what type of athlete or, you know, guy you are, there is a role for you. If you're a big guy, you can be a linebacker. If you're a tall guy, you can be a receiver or a defensive back, you know. There's a lot of different roles. If you're good at catching, you can be a receiver. You can be, you know, if you can just kick the ball, then be a kicker, right? There's a lot of roles in football, which means there's something for everybody. I mean, you may not be top tier, but at least you can play the game and enjoy it and actually do well. One of the important things about getting into a game is actually doing well. And TF2 has that, right? It has the opportunity for people to just join, pick a class that suits their personality, their style, and then do well. And that would get them into the game. So for all of the faults as a spectator sport, TF2 does have the ability to pull people into the game and enjoy it, and that is one of the things that is probably lacking in some of the other things. I've heard people talk about League being more casual, more approachable than Dota 2, and that might totally be the case. I wouldn't know, I don't play the games. But yeah, those little things to think about what makes a good spectator sport, what makes a good esport spectator sport. Anyways, that's it for today, guys. Let me know what you think. I will catch you guys next time. Ciao!